Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today is a really sad day because Wargaming just killed off, I think, one of the best monthly events that they run, at least in the current version, for the last 4 years. That's right, Top of the Tree, or on the American server it's called To the Top, has just been absolutely destroyed with massive changes, and there's no other way to say this, huge nerfs to the ability for you to progress up the tech trees. In today's video, I'm going to let you know why I think this was a massive mistake and why it was handled very poorly from Wargaming, as well as running over a history of the Top of the Tree so you can get an idea of how it evolved before, frankly, it was killed off this month. So, the Top of the Tree, or To the Top for the American server, has existed in its current form for the last 4 years. We can go back to the first time that it was available with all of the really funky boosts that we have. But if we look at the Top of the Tree existing in the game, it is many more years, pretty much as long as the game has been running. However, since October 2019, it was in pretty much the same form that you see now. There was crew boosting, there was experience for doing 20,000 damage, there was also not experience rewards, but equipment rewards for doing 200,000 damage over the month, as well as premium consumables, and also 300% crew boosters for playing games in the top tier tank. And even at times, Wargaming were trialing out rentals for premium tanks to try and get players to consider buying premium tanks that match the Top of the Tree to help their progress. Since then, while there have been minor changes, it's pretty much been in its constant form. Up until 2020, where Wargaming decided to have 2 Top of the Tree tanks rather than 1. Now that would make sense because there are actually 56 different lines in the game. That's not including an artillery, and Wargaming never made artillery Top of the Tree for obvious reasons, because the last thing they'd want is to fill the matchmaker with self-propelled guns. But even with 56 lines in the game, if they did 1 per month, it would have taken 4 to 5 years to cover all of the different lines. And even at 2 per month, it's still 2 to 3 years before they've covered each of the individual lines if they do them in order. Top of the Tree was really just a fantastic opportunity for veteran players to try out lines that they may not be specifically interested in without putting in huge time or currency investment into the line. And also, for a free-to-play player, it was an opportunity for them to make serious progress in a very hard-to-progress game, where a lot of players are feeling like they're trying to catch up, only just starting playing the game in the last few months or few years without a huge financial investment. As all of you may know, I have a Plays for Free account, which I spend absolutely no money on. I started this in 2018, and since then I'm starting to get close to unlocking all of the different vehicles. Now, it's taken me a good amount of play. It's taken me nearly 14,000 battles to be able to get to this position, but it has been a real fun experience to take advantage of Top of the Tree to be able to progress up lines that maybe I wouldn't have necessarily wanted to go up. But it's also a fantastic way to play the game even when you're not running premium time. And I'm sure a lot of you are asking, QB, how do you have 12 days of premium on your free-to-play account? It's because I completed the Waffenträger game mode and then I opened up all of the boxes towards the end of it. So consequently, I'm kind of in both of these boats in a way, on both sides. I'm a veteran player who kind of likes to use the Top of the Tree to be able to grind out field mods, and I'm also a free-to-play player who doesn't always have premium time, who really likes to have any kind of boost possible to get the most from the time that you put into the game. Now let me clarify about field mods. Since Wargaming added in field mods a year or 2 ago, it was an insane grind to be able to get the experience required on all of your different tier 10 tanks. If you also include artillery, it is over 13 million experience to be able to just get all of the field mods on all of the different tier 10 vehicles in the game. And that's just tech tree tanks. That's not the reward vehicles in the game as well. Now, to put that into perspective, to be able to get all of the field mods, if you average 2,000 experience per game, that's including kind of like daily doubles and maybe using an experience booster, it would take you 7,000 battles of World of Tanks. That's as many games as some people play in a year, or in a couple of years, or 3 years, just to be able to get the field mods at tier 10 alone. So the Top of the Tree was a real good opportunity for you to be able to unlock features that Wargaming added into the game that may or may not have actually been desired from the player base. And more importantly, to not have to play those tanks as much while they're not in a good position, aka you don't have all of the field mods. There's nothing more painful, and trust me, I know from my free-to-play account, to play stock tanks. But also, now there's so many different layers of pain in World of Tanks. It's like a pain cake. I played this game for 11 years. What am I doing with my life? But now you've not only got kind of like stock tanks, you can't even unlock field mods on vehicles before you've managed to get them elite. So for example, when I'm playing up light tanks on my free-to-play account, I can't even have two builds. I want to have a damaging build and I want to have a pure scouting build, and I can't do that. Anyway, I digress. That's a different problem altogether, and I should stay on focus. But I'm really trying to let all of you know just how awesome the top of the tree was to be able to not skip the pain, but just be able to get through it faster, kind of like running over a hotbed of coals rather than just taking your time and slowly roasting your feet, I guess, from that regard. So now I want to talk about how generous was the top of the tree. Well, in its form last month before Wargaming decided to just completely destroy it, if you did 20,000 damage, or in a light tank, I think it was like 15,000 spotting instead of doing the damage, you got 6,500 experience, and you could get that 10 times throughout the month. Also, if you did 200,000 damage, you could get 20,000 experience, and that would be only one application of that. Accordingly, if you did 200,000 damage over the month through the entire line, that would give you 85,000 bonus experience, which is actually 0.425 experience per damage that you deal. So think about it, when you're playing in a Jagdpanzerei 100, if you hit a shot in your Jagdpanzerei 100 last month, that was actually kind of like 400 to 500 experience just for hitting a shot that you'd get if you were to play during, of course, if you did all the 200k and you got the big payout towards the end. Accordingly, for the average player at tier 10 who does 2,000 damage per game, that was 850 experience just for playing and actually doing damage and not thinking about doing anything else. But one of the best things was the ability to get 5 times experience for the second win. Now, for a premium account, if you got like 1,000 experience base, that would be 7,500. For a free-to-play account, that would be 5,000 because it didn't also boost the 50% extra, as I believe it did. So all of these things really added up, and they were an opportunity to accelerate your way through the field mods without just logging in and getting a daily double every day, or buying 5 times experience boosters from Wargaming or events to be able to accelerate your progress that way. On top of this, up until Wargaming amalgamated the boosters, you've got a 300% extra crew training booster for playing 5 battles in the tier 10 tank. You also managed to get yourself 50% combat experience boosters for doing the damaging push, and premium consumables as well for playing the tier 10 tank. So how did Wargaming nerf the top of the tree? Well, firstly, the 5 times experience for your second win of the day is gone, and it's been replaced by 1.5 times experience after 2 top 7 place finishes. Now, to be fair, you can lose and still get a top 7 finish to be able to get the boost, but that poses a real big problem. Let's say, for example, you log in and you play a game, and your first game is epic, amazing win. You get a huge amount of experience, awesome, but you don't get actually any boost on top of that. Let's say you play your second game of the day and you do well, but your team really sucks and you lose. And as everybody knows, sometimes you might only get 300 base experience for a loss, and then that's when the 1.5 times experience would kick in, meaning that you're boosting your loss rather than actually boosting your win. And that's what you want. You want to have your wins amplified rather than the random ones amplified. Also, I'd like to clarify that Wargaming have now made it that you have to finish in the top 7 rather than in the top 10. So previously, 2/3 of players made progress, i.e. 10 out of 15 players. Now, only 7 players are going to be making progress towards that experience boost, which is so much less. So less than half the team now are actually making progress on top of the tree within that regard, whereas previously it was the 2/3 of the team. Wargaming have also removed the E-experience, or the E-experience from doing a lot of damage. So that 6,500 that you got, as I showed, for the 20,000 damage is gone. That was up to 65,000 experience for free every month, with or without a premium account. And that 20,000 experience for the 200,000 is gone as well. Also, Wargaming have changed it now, so the 300% crew training boosters have become 200% free experience boosters. And also, Wargaming have now added in that you can only get this boost 7 times throughout the month, whereas previously it was unlimited. So that means that if you play 35 battles in those tanks, that's all of the boosts that you're going to get. Whereas previously, in theory, if you just loved playing tier 10, you could farm 200% or previously 300% boosters to be able to just collect them or just get rewarded. So it feels like Wargaming are now telling you how much you can play rather than just allowing you to play as much as you want within that regard. And a final mention should be made to the fact that the consumables are gone. Honestly, those premium consumables that you got from playing the tier 10 was quite lucrative. If you sold them, it would kind of help a free-to-play player to be able to play tier 10 and not lose credits. Or alternatively, you could just use them in your tanks to be able to have a little bit of an edge against your opponents. So they've really just completely destroyed it. Previously, there was a fantastic opportunity to make great progress if you're a free-to-play player or a pay-to-win player. Now, it's just so limited that it's probably not even worth actually investing that much time into. This 1.5 times experience is trivial, and the fact that Wargaming have made it so petty that you have to have 2 finishes to get 1.5 times, and so the fact that they haven't thought it through, that sometimes you're going to be getting the boost in your losses where you don't get much experience anyway. They've gone from a really good system to a really ill-conceived and thoughtless and ungenerous system. So I've been thinking to myself, what are the actual reasons that Wargaming could have for this? Well, firstly, a popularity problem. We all know what happened to the Progetto 65. Wargaming decided to make it top of the tree at the same time as it also being featured in the Battle Pass. And the consequence was that the Progetto 65 got really popular, something like, I think it was 5 or 10 times more popular, because Wargaming featured it and people found out this is a really good way to advance through the Battle Pass, and also I can get it cheaply right now, why wouldn't I? And then they decided that, oh, it's become too popular, so even though it's got a mediocre win ratio, we're going to nerf it. And the result is now that the Progetto is just in an absolutely awful state with regards to how competitive it is at tier 10. It's the second worst. And when we also include that the T62A is a collector's tank, which is just trash, the Progetto is nearly 1% worse than its auto-loading rivals. They took such a beautiful tank and just destroyed it. And they did it unnecessarily because they made the vehicle too popular from not only top of the tree, but from the Battle Pass. So I guess Wargaming are maybe thinking that, oh, if we make this too generous, people are going to take us up on it too much, and we're creating these artificial spikes in how many people are playing the vehicles. Now, I understand that if they feel that they're causing an issue like that they might want to address it. But I would argue that instead, Wargaming, why have you been making the vehicles that are featured in the Battle Pass always top of the tree? Don't you think this is going to have like a double effect? That not only are people wanting to accelerate their progress up the tree with top of the tree, but also playing the vehicles more just to be able to get their way through the Battle Pass? If you're really worried about the popularity problem, why would you not feature vehicles that are not in the Battle Pass? If people want to play those tanks to accelerate the progress in the Battle Pass, let them play it. But don't make them top of the tree as well if you're worried about the popularity. So from my perspective, even if Wargaming suggested that the reason why they're doing this is because the popularity, they're not thinking it through, and there are many things that they could do to change the popularity of the vehicles that aren't just nerfing the top of the tree. Next, there could be the problem that it was too generous. Maybe Wargaming feel that they were giving out too many boosters, and that's probably the case, considering that previously the amount of boosters that you could earn were unlimited, and now Wargaming are putting a hard limit of 7 times per account per month. So maybe they're worried that the amount of boosters that they're giving out is too generous. Maybe they think that the amount of consumables they were giving were too generous, which is why they've removed them. Maybe they're worried about people finding it being too comfortable to play tier 10. They need to squeeze them a little bit for them to then pay to be able to play tier 10. That's a possibility. Next, I think Wargaming might have been worried about players completing the game too quickly, i.e. they've put field mods in, they don't want people to just wait until a tank is featured in top of the tree to be able to then unlock the field mods, which is what I did, and it's what a lot of people should have been doing as well. It was a great opportunity to be able to turn this insane grind of 13 million experience in just tier 10 tanks alone, which would require you literally like a hardcore year of your life playing World of Tanks. And you could reduce that to maybe like 3,000 games rather than 7,000, which sounds a lot more manageable. But keep in mind, you have to wait until the vehicles are actually featured and be ready to do them then, and be able to sometimes save up the credits. So it wasn't like it was a super simple system where you could just pick what lines you wanted to be able to feature for yourself, right? The other problem might be that Wargaming thought there were too many noobs at high tier. However, I always feel that when you do allow people to accelerate their way up the tech tree really quickly, they might not learn how to play. But the ultimate argument against this is Wargaming sell tier 10 reward tanks now, effectively. Anybody could have bought the Kampfpanzer that went into the game recently this year, and anybody could have bought the Lion. All that it would have taken is either credits, gold, free experience, bonds, whatever anyone had. That would be their ticket to be able to instantly have a tier 10 vehicle. And I would argue that those tanks, like the Lion, are way more tricky to play than at least advancing up your tech tree over a month of playing like hundreds of games, where you're still going to be like slowly growing up and learning. The other problem is that Wargaming have been putting not only tier 8 but tier 9 premium tanks in the game. Anybody could just start playing World of Tanks, go on, buy 50 loot boxes, and there was a good chance they were going to get either a 283 object 283. It's not really a premium tank. Or maybe the T3 Jaeger is a better example. And then they could just jump in at tier 9 and mess up the matchmaker within that regard. So while I guess Wargaming could say that this is a way that they can alleviate the too many noobs at high tier problem, if that is even a problem, I don't really feel it is that much of an issue. But this is the one that actually makes the money, right? Rather than the one that actually costs the money. Which brings me on to my final reasoning, which is monetization. Maybe Wargaming feel that if they make it too easy for being able to just slowly collect the lines as you go along and not actually have to pay to play the game, then they're not going to be making any money. And this seems to be the case because just this month, Wargaming have now incentivized people to buy their 5x experience missions back for either spending gold, or I'm pretty sure that you could probably buy it for money inside the shop as well. But like gold is pretty much money anyway from that perspective. So you can buy yourself 100% extra combat XP. You can buy yourself the 50% extra credits and the 5x missions. Funnily enough though, these missions, I believe, are not just linked to the vehicles in question. They're 5x experience for any vehicle. So let me clarify as well, Wargaming, that is really stupid. Because if there's one thing I hate more than anything in World of Tanks, it's when I have a huge amount of 5x experience games. Maybe I want to go off and play, I don't know, my premium tanks. And I want to play the same premium tank. I want to go and be a filthy scrub and play the BZ176 40 times in a single day. Well, I just burnt all of my 5x experience games. I didn't have a chance to freeze it. I couldn't pause it. And now I've just wasted all of those things that I've bought. So let's imagine that you want to do top of the tree, the road to the top, and you want to buy it. Okay, you get 10 5x experience missions. You log in, you play the stock tank, you're all chipper at the start, and it's awful. Yeah, like 2 days ago, I think I won 1 out of 10 games when I was playing the WZ132 top of the tree. I was actually playing the WZ131, I believe, and I was also playing the Porlag. I won literally 1 in 10 games. Now, I cannot imagine how frustrating it would be if you purchase 10 5x experience battles, you don't burn any of them, and then you're so hating this game so much that you want to go and blow off some steam and play like a fun tank, like a Char Future 4, and you can only play it once, because you don't want your subsequent wins to burn those 5x experience games that you just spent 4,000 gold on. So, Wargaming, you should put a pause button in your game next patch for 5x experience games so you can actually choose when to use them. Or even better, Wargaming, why don't you make it so that when you hold the B key in the battle and you're clicking all of the boosters you want to, you can click activate the 5x experience. There you go. Problem solved within that regard. But they've just not thought this through at all as to how frustrating it is to waste your expensive 5 times experience games in tanks that you actually don't want to get the 5 times experience in. And again, this is a problem that they have created. They had a perfect system that was working great with the second win of the day, and now they've tried to A, turn it into monetization, but also poorly ill-conceived monetization with no thought for the user. So if all of these things weren't fails enough, I want to come to what I feel is like Wargaming's main fail. Firstly, no communication. There was zero warning that this was going to happen. Literally, they said, oh, next month it's going to be top of the tree in their video, and then boom, people log in and they're like, bro, why did I not get my experience in my second win of the day? You probably wouldn't even check, considering that we have had it in this current form for 4 years, Wargaming. The extent of their communication was saying that they've included streamlined missions, great rewards, and brand new bundle offers now available until the end of the event. Well, Wargaming, when you say streamlined, you mean literally like skimming all of the cream out of the milk and removing pretty much all of the great rewards, literally all of the ones that really mattered, like those big boy experience boosts, and then trying to sell them back to us in frankly ill-conceived bundles. What a joke. That is dubious at best to say this is streamlined missions. You know what? I think it would show a lot more confidence if Wargaming were to have just said, we're going to have to cut down on the top of the tree, but hey, here's something else to maybe keep you happy in the meantime. Also, what Wargaming could have done is they could have ramped it down slower. If they were feeling it was too generous, maybe they could have removed the consumables first. Maybe they could have removed the bonus experience for doing the damage first. Maybe they could have left the bonus experience for doing the damage and they could have just removed the 5 times. There was such a better opportunity to ramp down what has been such an important part of World of Tanks for the last 4 years than literally just absolutely destroying it. One of the most frustrating things from my side as well is there was no explanation at all, and that means that players like me, community contributors I guess, have to kind of like explain it to the audience as to what problems the top of the tree may or may not be causing. And I also feel that this is a community benefit, right? The top of the tree is intrinsic to the community and as exciting as the community as it can possibly be. And I feel like the community contributors, like me, could have been used so much better with this explanation to communicate it to the audience, which would have not exactly removed all of the disappointment that quite rightly the community is going to have, but at least it would have probably softened the blow a little bit if we had known about this, that it was coming up, and if it had been explained to us as to why it was happening. And Wargaming could have worded it in ways that were good for the game, right? And so, all in all, I don't feel like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here. I think this is a serious thing. I think it was one of, at least for me, one of the reasons why I actually kept logging in and playing on my Plays for Free account. It was definitely one of the highlights to see what lines were coming up, so I can see, oh, maybe I can be able to finally branch my way up the Japanese tank destroyers, or, oh, I don't quite have enough credits for the WZ-111-5A, but hey, I'm going to be able to buy it, and not only that, then I'll be able to grind it and be able to help get the field mods as I manage to progress. World of Tanks is a terrifying game. It's an absolute juggernaut of a game to be able to make your way through. And I feel like Top of the Tree was one of the gateways for new players into World of Tanks. It's one of the most recommended features that I would always say to my audience and new players that they should look to see what is Top of the Tree to be able to accelerate their progress up. And while I always recommend players stay towards the mid-tiers of World of Tanks for as long as they feel comfortable, hey, there's no harm in also, should I say, rewarding the aspirations of the players to want to grow up and enter towards the high tier. Because at the end of the day, having new players going up and having the confidence to play towards the upper tiers of World of Tanks is one of the only things that's going to be able to keep it going. So Wargaming, I'm not going to say whether the nerf of the Top of the Tree was necessary or not. I'm sure that you have your reasons. But what I will judge you for is how you have communicated these reasons to us as the players. And while I personally would absolutely love to see these changes reverted, I really doubt that it's going to happen. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video and I was able to break down Top of the Tree and the nerfs and the impossible reasonings for it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you what Top of the Tree meant to you. Was it something that you participated in? Was it one of your favorite events that Wargaming ran throughout the year? Or is it not really a big deal and you didn't care about it? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for the World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, I'm going to be playing up towards the M5Y. So if you want to come and see all of the reserve track American heavies, swing by now and I'll be able to show you from tier 1 up to tier 10 to let you know whether these American heavies are worth investing in, even in this nerfed version of the Top of the Tree. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.